Hey YouTubers, and more importantly makers. So Friday I made an announcement on Twitter that there was going to be big news this weekend. And well, it's Monday. The weekend's done and passed, but I still have a big announcement. So for the last few months I have been thinking about a new series of videos for YouTube. These videos are going to be titled Makers of Makers. I already have the first person picked out. They're going to be an interview style video. What my plans are is to interview the older generation of makers, specifically makers who grew up without the internet and made things and continue to make things, some without ever using the internet. The first person that's on my list to interview has never used the internet, but he is a maker. He is every definition of the word maker. So I'm doing a spotlight that is going to focus on our elders and the makers who've created us, the makers who were makers before there were makers. I'm going to discuss with them what their thoughts are of current makers and the projects that people are doing, what kind of technology evolutions they've seen over their time. The reason I'm putting this video out and announcing this a bit early before even honestly the first recording scheduled for the spring, but I need your help. This is a shout out to the maker community and YouTube as a whole. What I need from you guys is I have a list of questions that I've already created. However, I want this to be a community crowdsourced project. I want to know if you had the opportunity to ask a maker who's never seen the internet a question, what would that question be? And what I'd like for everybody to do for now, what I'm asking for is post down in the comments below your question. I'm working with my brother who's a programmer to get a more formal question submission website going. Until then though, leave your comments or leave your question in the comments below. Please share this video out to all the other makers, and hopefully we can make this one large crowdsourced project amongst all of us. There's a ton of us who learn and get inspired from the internet, and a lot of these guys never saw the internet. Some of them, they've had the ability of going to shows that, while they're not called maker fairs and they're not maker fests or anything remotely close to it, categorized in the categories of things that they like to work on. I would also like suggestions on people to interview. This isn't just going to be a podcast, it's going to be video. If they have past projects, completed projects that they've worked on, or maybe even projects that they've started that they never completed that they wish to one day get back to complete. I'm going to be checking out all of it. I always love hearing stories from my elders and from the people who've experienced things that I may have yet to experience, or have experienced things in a completely different time than what I've gotten to experience. I mean, behind me you see 3D printers. I'm probably going to bring one of these 3D printers along to some of these guys and girls who have never seen or may never even really have known that these types of things existed. But I want to see what their takes are on it. I want to see if their reaction to a 3D printer is the same as my own and the same as many on the first time they've ever seen a 3D printer print. When it lays down that first layer of plastic all the way to the last layer of plastic on the first thing somebody sees it print, you're watching it. And I want to see what their reactions are. I want to see what their thoughts are. And again, what kind of technology changes and advancements in their fields of making that they've seen. So again, I'm putting a call out. This is an early word to everybody. I'm hoping to get as much input, especially from some of the bigger name makers. Call a couple of yous out: Jimmy DiResta, Bob Claggett, David Picciuto, Izzy Swan, Steve Ramsey. Oh man, there's just too many of you to list. But please do what you can to share this video out. Get it as many views as possible so that we can get the input from the entire community. I want this to be a huge crowdsourced project. And again, I'm looking for questions for makers who've never seen YouTube or who were makers for years before they ever saw the internet. Some, like I said, the first ones never seen YouTube, never seen the internet. I want to see what kind of stories they have to tell, and I want to give them a chance to tell their stories to everybody who does check out YouTube. The plans with this are at the moment to be video. However, if there's enough interest, I may end up launching a podcast as well to do an audio version of the interviews. This will be a continuing project and ever evolving with questions, but I want to try to get as many questions in as possible. The first interview is going to be scheduled to be done in March or April. Once the weather warms up, the maker that I'm going to be interviewing works out of a garage, and it's just going to be a lot easier for them if it's warmer outside rather than right now it's winter here in the US. Again, I'm putting the call out to all the makers, the entire community. I'm looking for your questions. What would you ask a maker who's never seen the internet? What kind of things would you like to know from that person, from their experience? Also looking for suggestions on people to interview. Now, I'm starting out small because this is all being funded out of my pocket at the moment. And I'm going to be starting out local. I'm from York, Pennsylvania, and I'm looking for recommendations on makers in the, we'll call it Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, and DC areas for right now. Let's start there and let's see where things go. And we'll I got to look into financing and things like that to go out further. But for now, it's funded out of my own pocket because this is something I want to do. And we'll see where it goes. And I'm looking at doing one interview a month, one video a month. So I want to get started now and get things planned out for the 2017 year. So again, thank you everybody in advance for your recommendations, and I can't wait to see what kind of questions and suggestions on interviewees that you guys have. This is Matt. Thanks for checking out the channel, How I Do It. You'll be seeing more from me.